Today we're going to talk about buying properties Dubai off plan and what happens with your money, and therefore like how at risk is that money given the fact that, let's be clear, that property is not completed yet, and so you're giving them some money without knowing what exactly the project is going to look like on the back end. So we're going to talk about that today. Are you safe? Are you not? By the way, I say Dubai, but it's actually United Arab Emirates. It's across the whole country. Dubai is, the more common one, but you could be in Abu Dhabi, you could be in Ras Al Khaimah, you could be somewhere else. So same rules apply. And so we're going to go through that today. Now, just as a quick note, if you're interested, we do have a guide that we're producing, so you can download it, which is 10 places that you can move where you can live much better quality of life while saving a lot of money. And so feel free to go and download that. We cover things about taxes, about residencies, about different places that you might live there. And so it gives kind of an interesting stuff, and it's all free. So check that out, as well as if you would like help with relocating to UAE or somewhere similar, whether you want a golden visa or you want a visa through a company or something, freelancer visa, etc. There's lots of different options now. So you can feel free to send us a message through offshorecitizen.net. The email address is info@offshorecitizen.net. Or if you want advice about moving to one of these places, you can book a call with me, calendly.com/Michael-Rosmer. There's a link in the description to go. Blah, blah, again. All right, cool. So off plan. So off plan is the term that is used for pre-sales in UAE in various different parts of the world. And so in this situation, what are you doing? The developer is coming and saying, okay, we're going to build XYZ project. I will arbitrarily say in this particular situation that maybe it is Benghazi is doing the Jacob & Co. Tower. Okay, so that would be the idea. And so you say, okay, cool, I would like to buy that. Now, why would you want to buy on an off plan? You would do that for a few different reasons. First of all, because you're probably getting a lower price. Now, this is not unique to UAE, right? If you're in Canada, they will frequently go and do off like pre-sale sales to people. They'll do that in the US, they'll do it all around the world. And it's essentially a means of the developer to be able to create some financing or demonstrate some market traction prior to going forward. And again, I'll talk a bit about where that money goes in just a second. But the point is, the developer says, okay, I need to show that I actually have units sold. That will help me to get bank financing. It also proves that I've got money in the market. Usually there's funds that are locked up. And so if I complete, I know that I've got money. And so, maybe in some cases you actually get to use the money to build, et cetera. So this is good from a financing standpoint for them. And at the same time, what they're typically going to do is they're going to typically lower that. Now, I have done a video, and you can go and check that video out, where I talk about how I am very pessimistic on the returns in Dubai real estate or UAE real estate broadly at this point in time, looking out over, say, a 5-year period. Okay, so generally speaking, not a fan at this point, but it does raise the question of, well, if I am buying, and by the way, you can buy off plan now and get a golden visa, so that's pretty cool. If you're in that situation, what is your money at risk? What's going on here, right? So what will happen is they'll have some sort of a small down payment. Now, it depends on the developer. Maybe it's 5%, maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 20%, just depending. And there will be some sort of payment milestones along the way. So maybe upon booking, you pay 10%. And then after X period of time or X milestones, then you pay another 10%. It's pretty common that you will end up paying around 50% in the period leading up to the completion, and then maybe the final 50% upon completion. I'm like arbitrarily giving these. Some people have better payment terms. That's one of the ways that they get buyers. Some of them have worse payment terms because they don't need to worry about it. So just depending, but that's sort of a general idea. And so you can lock up that unit for fairly little. Now, notably, this is sort of a form of leverage, right? In UAE, it's pretty difficult to get mortgages. So if you come from Australia, from Canada, from the US, from UK, from all over tons of parts of Europe, et cetera, you're probably used to a pretty sophisticated mortgage market and it being fairly easy to get loans. Generally speaking, in UAE, in particular, if you're self-employed, it's not such a big deal if you have, if you're coming to UAE because you're working for Microsoft or something, okay, great, you'll probably be able to get mortgages fairly easily. But if you're in a situation where that's not you, which is most of our clients are entrepreneurs, investors, et cetera, quite difficult to qualify for mortgages in that environment. And so this is sort of an alternative to that, right? If I get to put up 10% of the value of the property, I'm basically taking a bet on what the future value of the property will be. And you might end up in a situation, let's just say arbitrarily the property was $1 million, okay? And so you put down 100 grand and the market is going like this. Well, it could be that by the time you're ready to make that last 50% payment, that the property is worth $1.5 million. And you can just flip the property. You've put $500,000 into it at this point in time, and you're making $500,000 in profit. That's 100% return on your money. Most of the time you didn't have that full amount tied up. That was pretty good. And so this has been encouraged. There's a whole industry that is driving people to this sort of thing. Again, my recommendation, don't do that from an investment standpoint right now. If you're doing it for a golden visa or something totally different, if you're doing it to live in it, totally different. But if you're doing it from an investment standpoint, I think you'll probably have negative returns over the next 5 years. And you can kind of review my video, right? Go and talk about the details of why that is. So now the question is, that's what we're dealing with. I go and I sign this contract. I hand over, let's say 10%, say $100,000. What happens? So that money goes into escrow. Okay, so it is worth noting that in the past, there were some problems in UAE where the developers would take money from people and then they wouldn't complete for various different reasons, and you would lose that money. And in general, I'm like not a huge fan of the fact that when I purchase off plan, I don't know what the product is going to look like at the end. I don't actually know when it will be completed. I'm pretty skeptical of the completion dates they give. I've seen cases where projects have been delayed for a couple of years, etc. So, you don't really know. But that being said, there might be still reasons to do it. By the way, there might be some reasons in some cases where it's just like a great unit and you would like that unit. And so like, hey, let's lock it up so that I've got it, right? That's legitimate. But being aware, things can go wrong. And because things went wrong in the past, UAE has improved those rules quite a bit. So now what happens is the developer does not get that money when you put that in there. Okay, so in order to get it going, the developer must provide the land and they must provide a deposit of a certain amount of money into this escrow account. And then they're going to do a bunch of pre-sales, off-plan sales, as we call them in UAE. And they're going to take those off-plan sales dollars, they're going to put them into this escrow account. And then based on meeting various milestones, then they can draw on that money. And this is pretty important because it gives a pretty strong incentive for the developer. So first of all, two things are true. One is generally they have enough financing through this mechanism to complete the project. And so they don't have to worry about people making the final payments. Okay, they're not dependent on those final payments in order for them to complete. Very, very important. Their incentive is really to complete because that's what they need to do to get their money, right? They had to put a lot on the line in order to make this take place. I believe it is 5% actually gets retained over a long period of time to make sure that, they actually fulfill warranty obligations and things like that. So yeah, this is the deal. In theory, could it happen that they get to a certain point, they draw a bunch of money, something goes terribly wrong, and they don't kind of bring in subsequent deposits, and they abandon the project? Yes, in theory that could happen. There have been a few cases where that sort of thing has happened. And typically what you'll see is that project then gets bought out by somebody else who takes it over and does what else. And honestly, people can lose money in those situations. So like, it's not totally without risk, but at least they've done a bunch to mitigate a lot of those risks. Now, if you're working with, one of the big reputable builders, you're doing this with Amar or something like that, extremely unlikely that you have any problems. Generally speaking, those big guys are going to do a complete job. They're going to finish things. They're going to do it fairly well. You pretty much know what you're getting with somebody like Amar, which is why Amar properties sell out like that. It's very, very quick. And so I would say that if you're dealing with a big, well-established builder, you're probably fine. If you're dealing with a smaller one, you have a little bit more risk, but at least there's this alignment of interests. And so you can rest assured that, it's controlled through a government process, and UAE is pretty well organized in that regard. And so you should be all right. Anyway, if you're interested in relocating to UAE or elsewhere, you'd like to get residence permits, you'd like to set up companies, you'd like to get bank accounts, or you'd like to figure out some other place to go, please reach out to us. Again, we've got this guide that you can download for 10 different places, but there's dozens of places as well. And so in addition to those, we're happy to help you. You can send an email or send a message to our website or book a call with me directly. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next video.